Seems to be the next call on the part of NASA. It wants to send 2 craft up there as we've been busy visiting Mars. But our actual closest neighbor is Venus, and this is something that's getting attention because a lot of people think Venus could be Earth in the super future here, that by looking at the greenhouse gas emissions and all the rest that have essentially presumably made its oceans boiling water and virtually inhabitable, it might be a preview to coming attractions here. That might be a leap, but we'll go to Mike Massimino, the former NASA astronaut, Two Funny Astronauts podcast host, spaceman, author. He's a busy fellow. Mike, great to see you. I always herald, Italian Americans who've had great accomplishments way beyond this planet, and you were that, young man. So congratulations. This push.
Thank you, Neil. What a great introduction. Thank you.
There we go. There we go. This push for Venus now, part of me remembers when we were doing this, 3 decades ago. So can't you say been there, done that, really didn't get much from that? What do you say?
No, we did get an awful lot from that. We learned a lot. But that 30 years ago, a lot has happened in technology-wise that's available, and other discoveries have been made. So the mapping of the Magellan spacecraft 30 years ago that was done was great, but it could not get the resolution to really understand what the planet was like and the surface was like that we can now get with new instruments, with the new technology. So this mission isn't going to launch tomorrow. It's going to be toward the end of this decade, and by then the spacecraft that will go will have the latest technology on board and be able to map it a lot better. Plus, not that long ago, there was some evidence that there might be some biological material in the atmosphere, some organic material that created some of the chemicals that they've seen, that they observed, or what they think they might have observed in the atmosphere of Venus. So it's worth taking a second look at that as well.
A lot of the people have been talking about studying the greenhouse effect there, geology there, that it could be a lesson for Earth, that what happened there and led to the oceans boiling away there. We assume they boil, we don't know. It could be a reminder and something timely for us to study. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think by understanding the planets around us that we think might have formed around the same time and might have been similar, for example, even Mars, Earth went in this great direction of supporting life, and with a lot of reasons for that, with the resources we have in our magnetic field and so on. And Venus, very close to the sun, or closer to the sun, much hotter, inhospitable, as you mentioned. Mars, we haven't been able to find any signs of life on the surface, at least. But I think by studying those 2 planets and trying to figure out what happened, why Earth went in one direction and those 2 planets that are right next to us went in opposite directions, we might learn a lot about our planet and how to keep it sustainable. Whether or not it's a prediction of what's going to happen, I think that's a bit of a leap. But certainly by looking at our neighbors, we can learn a lot about our planet.
You talk about 30 years ago when we were last visiting Venus and all of that. I mean, we've got a lot more competition these days, right? I mean, leaving aside just Russia, what China is doing on Mars right now, on the moon right now, India and Japan, I believe those 2 countries are looking at Venus missions of their own. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I think it's more and more countries now. Space is becoming more accessible for a number of reasons. It's not just governments, but it's also private companies going into space. It's opening up people's thought process, and with the new technology we can send to these places, we see more opportunity to explore. So I think that we're just seeing a huge increase in the opportunities for people and experiments and understanding. I would like to see us cooperate with more of these countries, and we are. For example, on the International Space Station, I think it's a great model where it's the U.S. and Russia, the countries of Europe, Canada, and Japan, and other countries all cooperating. I think that these scientific programs, whether it's exploring space or in other areas of science, are great ways for us to find common ground between countries around the world, and hopefully we can cooperate and explore together.
Mike Massimino, great seeing you again. Thank you so much, and to your service and some
always
stellar work
a pleasure.
Yourself, young man. Same here.